Hi, and welcome back to another episode of O'Fallon Life on Air, O'Fallon's premier podcast. And again, still the only one, but we'll take the premier title. Today, we're joined with two of O'Fallon's finest here from the O'Fallon Police Department. We got Officer Andy Lubieski and Officer Dave Goert. First off, thank you guys for both being here. Today's topic, we brought you in to answer some questions and explain a little bit more about O'Fallon Police Department's Safety Town program. So, again, thank you guys for being here, and I'll just open it up with that. All right. For people listening and watching at home, what is Safety Town and how is it formulated over the years to what it is today?
Well, thanks for having us, Tony. Safety Town is a program for 4.5 to 6.5-year-olds that teaches kids about different safety topics, such as gun safety. We have first responders come out so they get acclimated to being with first responders. The relationship builds with that. Fire safety, animal safety, water safety. There's all kinds of topics that we work with them on.
Yeah, just to build off what Andy's talking about, Safety Town is just that. Anyone that's had experience with Safety Town knows that we have a giant town set up at our schools, and we've partnered with Fort Zumwalt School District for a number of years, and now Wentzville. But anyone that comes in there will see a giant road map in buildings where Safety Town really began, long from the days when it was at Forest Park Elementary, painted on the street in 100-degree weather. So now we get the advantages of being inside and just working with the kids on crossing the street. But then, like Andy's saying, we have a lot of other topics we talk to the kids about over the 2 weeks that we hold each session.
Okay, so we're not talking about kids signing up and coming to a classroom for these 2 weeks. Like there's a classroom, but you're being immersed into a small town. Right. And these kids are able to learn how to navigate streets, vehicles, all these different things in this kind of little sim city, per se.
I think what's very interesting about our program and why it's so successful for so many kids is, people learn in different ways. Some kids can read it, which we have coloring books and things that they do, message boards. Some kids can hear it, which we do through song, and then some kids have to use their hands. And so our program is very interactive and reaches all kids that learn in different ways. And so I think that's why we've been successful for over 40 years.
Okay. Speaking of 40 years, what is the history behind Safety Town? O'Fallon PD has been doing this for 40-plus years now. So how did this start, and what was the vision then, and where is it? How has it changed, and where is it at now?
Well, Safety Town as a whole started back in 1937 in Ohio. Police officer there started after a kid, I believe, got killed in a car accident. So he developed this program, and it's evolved since then. Like Dave said, we've been doing this since 1985, or maybe you said that. It was started by Joe Famera, I believe. And since then, we've evolved over the years to keep everything up to date. The stranger portion of our program, we talk about how one of the biggest things now isn't being abducted in a park. We talk to the parents after every session and let them know. Internet safety is a huge thing. That's the strangers that people are more than likely going to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, on living their daily lives, and we teach the parents too. We go over each topic at the end of each day and give them a briefing of what we did and give them a mini lesson of what we went over so that they can learn from it and work with their kids at home too.
So like you said, there's from the 1930s when it kicked off in Ohio to 1985 here in O'Fallon, which I didn't realize that it would start at Forest Park Elementary outside on the pavement. That had to be miserable.
It could have been jail mud, but I was trying to fill some airspace here, Tony.
Fair enough. We definitely know it wasn't probably Pheasant Point or Twin Chimneys in 1985.
No.
So
No, those schools didn't exist.
But with that, what you're saying is that we didn't necessarily have the same concerns, right? There wasn't internet safety issues in the 1930s or even 1985 here in O'Fallon, so it has evolved. So with that, talking about the different aspects of the curriculum, can you walk us through walk the parents through that are listening right now that are thinking about signing up their children this summer, like the kind of the 2-week curriculum, right? I mean, I'm not saying it needs to be specifically day to day, but like what will they see in those 2 weeks?
So each day focuses on a specific topic, but the two main things that we do throughout the 2 weeks that the kids are there, name, address, and phone number, because that's super important if they ever get separated from their parents, and crossing the street, because that's just going to be a daily skill that they do in their lifetime. But the focus topics that we work on or that we have, we do fire safety. We make it a field trip to the fire department. Ambulance comes and visits us, hook somebody up to all the stuff as they give their presentation, just show that, hey, we're not hurting them, we're helping them. That way, if the medics have to come visit their house, they realize that they're not hurting grandma when the medics are treating them while grandma might be having a heart attack or whatnot. Okay. What else we have? We have water safety. We've got animal safety. How to call 911. Dispatcher comes out to help us have them practice calling 911, and we integrate that into the name, address, and phone number that we constantly work with them day in and day out in the program. I know I'm missing some topics here.
I think, like we take it very serious. Like we do it in a fun way for kids. I mean, all of us that work with Safety Town come from the schools, from our school resource officer programs. And so we have a lot of familiarity with the kids, but we do really want them to cross the street. I mean, O'Fallon has been very fortunate up until about 2 years ago when we lost a young lady in town from a school bus. But other than that, we've been pretty successful as a community of protecting kids. But we really take crossing the street, safely, and using crosswalks, explaining that to them, because we're not in a society or a community here that does anything than drive. Right. And so kids aren't familiar with crossing the street. So right now when we see these kids that are cutting in front of cars and scooters and the electric bikes and all the issues that we're seeing, they probably were never taught, the proper way, and then parents just kind of throw them off. So crossing the street's really big. And then like Andy was saying with 911, we really practice their name, address, and telephone number. You have to have that in an emergency. And then just working with them through emergency situations. And I think that, not to get stale, having all these guests come out from the firemen, I have animal control. We do the paramedics, the canine. They get a little bit of everything to make it fun. Just learning in a fun way. But for 40 years, it's been very effective, and probably our biggest community relations program at the police department. I mean, these families remember us forever. We have so many, neighbors that are involved in it, teachers. I can't tell you how many teachers, kids we see every single year. So it's a vital program of our community service section for sure.
All right, so you talk about some people that come out and help you guys. You got O'Fallon's Canine. I'm assuming you mentioned canines. They come out and demonstrate the dogs and how they work to all the kids, which is always a highlight for anywhere our canine team here at O'Fallon goes.
It is. They love doing that, and we let the parents come and watch that demonstration too, and the parents get a kick out of it.
Yeah,
so.
I bet. Do either one of you put the sleeve on and let the dog?
If they wanted me to, I would. I mean, it is amazing to feel the pressure from the dog, but it's one of those things. Also, I think that it's fun, but I think that the kids can learn a little bit of respect for what an animal can do to you, because we talk about strange animals too, and what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to react to maybe a loose dog. I mean, we're seeing the news, all these people that are getting attacked by dogs in the city, and it's scary. It's scary to think that some child out there does the wrong thing or is in the wrong spot and gets attacked. So, but the canine, it's definitely teaches a little bit of respect about the bite.
All right. And then mention name, address, and phone number. You have O'Fallon Police Dispatch come out and help with that one. I mean, actually simulate calling 911 and be able to provide that information to a dispatcher, correct? That's part of that protocol.
Yeah, we do that. And when we do that, we right now we're using the old school phones. Because everybody has a cell phone now, there's very few people who still have a landline
Sure.
at home, right? But that's not the important thing. It's not how to use a phone, how to call 911. It's the communication once you have to. If somebody does call a 911,
It sounds
they're
like
gonna have to be able to talk to the dispatcher and let them know what's going on, and more importantly, where it's at and who
What's
it
happening.
is. Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like a big highlight of the week is the traffic crossing the road, like a traffic crosswalk. And so I don't want to spoil anything, but you take the kids outside of it, especially at the Progress South Elementary location, and have them cross the street with cars and making sure cars are stopping before they cross the street. And you do that under the guidance of a teacher and a police officer out there. But also, I think one of the favorites I've heard from the kids is that you boo the cars that don't come to a complete stop, right?
Yeah, along Canals Road, Canals at Oak Valley. That's always been a spot, and that started years ago. We were out there practicing across the street right there, and started noticing. But one of them that really stood out was a full-size dump truck went right through there, and I don't know who started the boo things. Maybe Officer Schoonover, but yeah, it becomes a highlight. But it also shows you that the kids are engaged in what you're teaching, and they understand how dangerous that stop sign could be when cars don't stop.
Right.
So just to piggyback on what he said, last year, that's a game that we played every year, and we're kind of giving this away to some of the parents because unfortunately some of the parents get booed on their way in. We call the game good driver, bad driver, but they get booed on the way in because they didn't fully stop at that stoplight. But last year when we were playing the game, a county officer saw us doing it, and he's like, okay, I might have some fun. He parks down the street, and then a couple of cars that got booed got stopped.
All right.
Don't know if they got a ticket or not, but
the kids were able to see that there's a consequence for
correct,
bad actions. Okay. One other thing that I know you guys do, and it's kind of always a highlight with kids and parents as well, is the stranger danger. I don't know if you guys want to go into too much of that because I know it's kind of a big focal point of the lesson there. But you guys do have a practical exercise which is under control of the police department. I mean, you guys not a random stranger come off the street, but there is an exercise you guys do with the kids to ensure that what they've learned throughout the week has really sunk in.
So yeah, that's one of the things that we work on from day one is saying no and going to tell somebody if they're in a situation that's dangerous, whether that's a stranger that's approaching them who shouldn't be. And we even start out like who's a stranger and who's not a stranger. Like somebody in a police uniform, a paramedic in their uniform, a firefighter in their uniform. Do the kids know them personally? No, but they're not a stranger. That's somebody that they can trust. It's a trusted adult. Their parents are trusted adults. Their counselors are trusted adults once they know them. A stranger that comes in, they're not a trusted adult until we introduce them until a trusted adult introduces them to them. So yeah, throughout the week, I mean, we practice that. Throughout the 2 weeks, we practice that, saying no and going to tell somebody if they're in a dangerous situation. If they see something dangerous on the playground, same sort of thing. So we have a couple practical exercises. I don't want to give away too much because in the past we've had parents coach their kids ahead of time, and then it kind of takes away from their learning experience.
And you mentioned dangerous, not just strange, but dangerous things, right? Could be
if they find a knife on the playground or a firework or a bullet or something, whatever it may be. So anything dangerous, instead of playing around with it. And
parents always there's what do you do if you find a gun? Like don't play with guns, right? Is always a battle cry. Don't play with guns. But what do you do if you encounter you just are at a friend's house and there's a gun, sitting out kind of thing? Like how do you handle that? These are all things that parents I think need to know that this is what's being taught at Safety Town. These are the benefits to your kid attending. There's a lot of lessons to be learned here.
Yeah, and sometimes I always like to have a conversation after one of our particular days with the stranger, and let's say that their child fails and is taken into the school. We try to explain that as parents we need to really understand and explain what a stranger is, because when somebody at the bank or the grocery store gives them a sticker or a lollipop, or the ice cream man, when you ask these kids, the ice cream man's not a stranger, he's the ice cream man. And so it's not a failure when this happens to the kids, because it's some of these parents are very devastated, very upset that their child fell for the trick, right? Because we talk about it being a trick. They have to realize that we teach our kids to be polite, and I think that kids get confused, right? They're going to be mom's little helper, they're going to be dad's little helper, grandma's little helper, and so at times they want to go help, which makes them, kind of vulnerable to tricks that are out there. So,
and I think too, right? It's you want the mistakes to be made in practice, if it's athletics or not, and this is the perfect time to
treat
make
all
that.
as learning experience.
Right, make it here and not in the real world. So, all right. So who teaches? You guys are there. The police department personnel or staff is there. Who else is teaching these?
So at both of our locations, we got 3 to 4 officers that run the program that help teach them. Each place has, like at Progress West, we have Mrs. Madonia, a Fort Zumwalt teacher at Winsville.
We have Artie McCarty. She's famous out in the Discovery Ridge school.
So we both got certified teachers that help teach the lessons, and we really can't do this without, we got volunteers, like the high school counselors. Okay. Each session has approximately 20 counselors to our 40-something kids, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio. I mean, we have a lot of help, and they stay busy. They're the ones working with the kids nonstop, and ultimately helping them learn everything that they're learning too.
All right. So, like, when a kid comes to Safety Town, they're going to have school teachers, police officers, and high school kids with them every day. So there's a mix of ages and friendly faces for these kids.
Yeah, and they're going to have the same people every single day. So come day 2, it's a familiar place to them.
Okay. Safety Town? Who's it open to? What ages can your kids start coming?
Go ahead.
4.5 to 6.5-year-olds, nice. And it's not limited to residents either. We've had people come from Bowling Green, from Jeff County, from Warren County, all over. Our program's well known. I think we do a good job, and there's a reason people seek us out. So, right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because we're talking 320 kids now, I think is what we teach to, and maybe
360.
Yeah, maybe a late afternoon class will take a little longer to fill up, but for the most part, the majority of Safety Town is filled within the first
day, a couple hours.
First couple hours.
First day of registration to fill us up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First session morning, I bet, is probably the
morning sessions tend to fill up.
Yeah. So, all right. So 4.5 years old to 6.5 years old.
At the time of when the session's going on, when the session starts.
Okay.
First day of each
session.
session.
You have to be 4.5 to 6.5.
Correct.
When you're in the session. And anyone, not just OFallon residents, but any kid out there is worthy of this education. So, anything else as far as, can the kids take the class more than once? If you've taken it once, can you come back?
We have kids come back multiple times. You can only come back once given the age range, but we've had plenty of families bring their kids through 2 times. And when they do come back, you can tell that they've already picked up from last year, and they expand on that, and they actually can be leaders to their group too.
I assume you have a lot of siblings come through.
A lot of siblings.
Okay.
A lot of siblings. And what's so crazy is the relationship you build later on. They, a lot of them you get to know. Like for me, coming from the DARE program, there was ones in kindergarten that you see, and then you see them every year as you're teaching DARE in the 5th grade. Kind of forget about them a little bit. They changed a lot in the middle school, in the middle school time. But yeah, definitely a generational thing.
And just a side note, you guys are both high school SROs here for OFallon. Andy, you're at Hope High, and Dave, you're at West High, Fort Zumwalt West.
Yes.
I'm assuming you probably have seen some of these kids go from Safety Town to high school over the years. And obviously you don't have to answer. I'm just going to throw it out there as an assumption that those Safety Town graduates are probably some of the best high school kids that you guys have, because you guys have done such a good job preparing them for adolescence. So I bet they're crossing streets properly. They're doing all the things that you told them how to do. So,
absolutely.
When parents drop kids off or come to Safety Town, drop their kids off, do the parents stay with the children?
No.
No. Okay, so
So the
parents,
first day they'll stay for an orientation, so we can give them just that. They'll stay for 20 minutes, and we'll let them know exactly what the procedures are and what we'll be doing. But other than that, they drop the kids off. It lets the kids develop some independence, some confidence. Just lets them grow into their own. And similarly, each kid's going to be divided into a group. 8 different groups, 9 different groups. Parents have asked in the past to put their kids in the same group so that one can help the other, but similarly, we almost never let that happen just so that little brother isn't depending on older sister, and that lets them develop that confidence, that independence, and that self-worth that, hey, I can do this without my older brother or sister's help.
so by the parents not being there, it's really to help the kid grow in that 2 weeks.
Yeah, it definitely helps. And then the idea is for them to, when they take their coloring page home or a project home, and at the end of the day, they learn about what we talked about. The idea is for them to go home and practice that, practice watching this, putting on the seatbelts, practice, good driving habits, even for the parents, because the kids are always watching. But really just to reinforce each topic, and in each topic we talk about is our legitimate concerns as a parent. You should be concerned about your, gun safety and crossing the street and all the topics we talk about. So it's just very important for them to, because it's a small snapshot of time that we get with them, and so it's very important that parents continue to reinforce that as they grow up.
Before I get into when and where, how do you sign up? The session, you have a morning session. How many hours is that? Just one session? 2.5
hours each session.
Okay,
The morning's from 9 to 11:30, and then the afternoon is 12:30 to 3.
You have 2 locations now. It started off with one. Now we've expanded to the Winsville School District as well. So you have Progress South Elementary for Fort Zumwalt and Discovery Ridge Elementary for the Winsville School District.
Yes.
We have the dates here. We can put these up on the screen as well. Progress South is June 1 through 12, and then June 15th through the 26th, and then July 6th to the 17th, a little bit of a break there over the Independence holiday. And then Discovery Ridge is June 8th through the 19th. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Right. And then you have morning and afternoon.
For all
For all of
6 of
those.
those sessions.
And what are those times again,
Or
Andy?
8 of 4 of those sessions. Morning is 9 o'clock to 11:30, and afternoon is 12:30 to 3.
Okay. And then let's talk about how do parents sign up? Most important question today, how do you sign up? You guys are
Okay,
sold?
number one, because I've heard this from many people every year. Before April 1st, when sign up starts at 8 a.m., before then, go and get yourself an account with the Renaud Center, because you can't sign up without having that account. I've had parents, what's the word I'm looking for?
knowing.
Disappointed, frustrated that they weren't able to sign their kid up because it does fill up so quickly. Because when they went there at 8 a.m., they went online to sign up. They had to create an account first, and by the time they got through everything, it was already filled up, so they weren't able to get the session that they wanted. So first off, get your account set up. Secondly, the O'Fallon Police Department's website has a link to get there, and I assume that there's a website through the city of O'Fallon specifically.
Yeah,
Through
so
the
I know it's
Parks Department, right?
Yeah, well, I know it'll be on the Safety Town webpage on the police department
Correct, yeah.
website. That we can click a button there. I'm assuming
There's a link there that'll
social
go
media
live,
will
right?
have it out that morning for sure. Different ways to get there, but so next Wednesday, 1 week from today, April 1st at 8 a.m. It's always open the first business day, so typically April 1st every year at 8 a.m. is when you can start signing up. But your advice is it's the same sign up or same account if you wanted to register your kid for soccer or t-ball through the city, through the rec department. It runs through the recreation department. So as long as you have an account there, you can sign up for Safety Town. If not, before April 1 at 8 a.m.
You have 2 processes,
Get that account created. That way,
Once you
you're
have your
not,
account and log in, you can sign up for Safety Town at 8 a.m. on April 1st. So
And increase your chances for getting the session that you would like.
okay. All right. What is your favorite part? We talked about the history, what goes on. how parents can sign up. So now I'm asking both of you, Andy and Dave, what's your favorite part of Safety Town and teaching it?
Good.
I would think that graduation, I think also the gradual build when parents start to realize that we're not a babysitting service. I would not do this if we were there as a babysitting service. It truly is an education program. And I think at graduation, watching the kids recite their song for their parents, and then realizing that they did learn how to cross the street and they did learn their name, phone, address, and telephone number. I think those are two of the big highlights for me.
Similar to what Dave said, we have fun. I have fun. The teacher has fun. The counselors have fun. The kids have fun. They love it, but they are learning something, and we treat this that way. We take it seriously. But my favorite day, I might be embarrassed to say this, is Firehouse Day. We go there.
Do you have
we
a
go
secret,
there.
like desire to be a firefighter?
No, I don't.
Off-road
I
gas?
don't. But we go there, and then they show us their boring truck, and they give us a tour of their boring
And they're always yawning.
firehouse.
They're always yawning. Like, I don't know what it is.
And then they teach them their fire safety lesson, which is it's all super important.
And they got
And then
those,
afterwards, they turn their truck on, and then we have the biggest sprinkler in the county for them to play in. And
they have those
it's
plastic hats with no nachos in them.
Yeah.
Like the firemen just, I don't know. They just got to get their
Firehouse Day
game.
is always a good time.
So do the kids wear swimsuits or anything that day? Do they come?
You have to come in
they're-
swimwear, bring a towel.
Okay, because they're playing in the
Yep.
a big
Shoes,
sprinkler
some
on
type
top
of shoe. You know,
Okay.
so skin their feet.
Do you guys give them a heads up you're coming, the firemen, to make sure they're awake and all that? And I feel like that's where you guys are going with
We
this.
have to. You know, they get pretty upset. You know, when we just show up. You know.
The last time we did that, we interrupted their barbecues.
Well, that, and they don't save their games. You know, like their games are important. So, and then.
So when actually a serious question about the fire department, I'm assuming O'Fallon Fire Protection District is who you partner with for the Progress South.
Correct.
What about the Discovery Ridge?
We're with the Wentzville.
With one,
Fire.
so you stay
Yeah.
down there in the Wentzville area. Okay.
And I think, you know, I know we're making light of it,
Sure.
but we are making light of it because, you know, we are fortunate to have a really good relationship with our fire departments, really good, I would say guys, but, you know, guys and gals that help us out, but we've had a good relationship with them, and so it's great that they partner with us and let us run around their firehouse, you know, make it all wet.
And not just the fire department, the paramedics,
Right.
CAC when they come out. We didn't mention them earlier, but that's another safety topic. Everybody that we work with, we have great relationships with, and we can't do this. This really is a community program. It's not just a police department program. Everybody, including Fort Zumwalt and Wentzville School District, we can't do it without them. So
I think a important piece that for me too, and I'm sure Andy will agree that you know, we use A+ counselors from the schools, so they're coming over to get their community service hours, and they have to work within the school environment. And so we spend a lot of time with those counselors. Some will ask to stay on and do a double session to get more hours and eat lunch with us. And I think we build a pretty good relationship with that teen environment too, of the high school students. So I think that's a kind of a cool thing too. To, you know, they ask a lot of questions and you know, for advice and you know, how dark can they tint their windows and you know, all the questions of teens. But I think it's just an extension of what we do here in O'Fallon, and we really have a good community relations with our young people.
I bet they have a lot of rumors they hear, like, is this really true? The police really do this? And you can dispel a lot of those myths probably with that relationship.
Well, sometimes I bring donuts in just to get it over with. You know, you just gotta break the ice, and we'll just all enjoy a donut. But you know, it is a lot of fun working with them.
All right. So Safety Town, obviously that was a topic of the day, but you guys, the police department as a whole, has a lot of programs throughout the entire year. But I have a list of things that are coming up this spring and summer. I'm going to kind of run through a few of these here for you and explain a little more and let the viewers know what they can do to get involved. The Explorer program, the Police Explorer Post 2943.
Yeah.
What is that?
I run that with Officer Bob Schoonover. We've been doing that for about 5 years. Prior to me taking over, Officer Pollard did it. But regardless, it's a program for teenagers. Typically, once you're out of 8th grade, 14-and-a-half-year-olds to 20-year-olds. Once you hit 21, you age out. But it's for youth who are exploring the idea of becoming law enforcement officers.
Okay.
So we meet twice a month or every other week on Monday nights. If you're 14-and-a-half to 20 years old, we'd be more than happy for you to come by and see what it's all about. If it's something that you're interested in.
All right. Cops and Bobbers Fishing Day. That's coming up on May 9th. Dave, I think that's yours, right?
Yeah, we looked at something between 6 and 14. You know, we don't have a lot of programs for that age bracket, and so we created a program out at Fort Zumwalt Park. We partnered with the Conservation Department to teach kids how to fish and how to safely handle fish. And kind of the idea was that, we're out on golf carts in the summer, and officers we don't see kids like when I was a kid. We don't see the kids out there. So we have a lot of neighborhoods have different retention ponds, and of course the city has, Fort Zumwalt Park is really nice, but we have these places, and we just trying to encourage kids to go outside. So we have a bunch of volunteers. We fish with them. We have a barbecue, and just have a really great day at Fort Zumwalt Park.
All right. Speaking of barbecues, on here is Sid and Bob's Barbecue coming up on May 16th. Who won? Neither Sid or Bob are here, so who wants to explain what that is?
Go ahead.
Well, I think we call that sticker.
The Sid and Barbecue, I think, is what it got. This is what it got called.
Yeah, I've heard rumors it's called Stickapalooza, where Officer Sid gives out a lot of stickers, but. That started over at our skate park, trying to build some rapport with kids. At the time, we had a lot of property damage happening throughout the city in our bathrooms, in our facilities. And so the idea was with Officer Sid first officer going to the parks, it was to build maybe some rapport to try to find out who was doing this and try to prevent it in the future. So, it's basically a big picnic. We barbecue and just hang out with the kids, and it's well attended.
Grill burgers, hot dogs, chips, soda, water, and it's all like you said, right there at the skate park.
And it's complimentary.
Free charge. Yep.
Yeah. Free charge, May 16th at the skate park at Westall Park.
I believe it's at 11.
Okay.
Does that sound about right?
They'll
be on the website somewhere.
Right. They'll be somewhere
Lunchtime.
on OFallonTV
Yes.
Facebook. I guarantee it'll be on there.
Right.
The Citizens Police Academy. That's an annual event. Dave, you want to explain more about that?
Yeah, so it's coming to a close, but we do this every year in March, end of February, March. It is just an opportunity for people that want to know a little bit more about their police department. They come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9:30, and each week we teach a topic. We have presenters come in. We just had the St. Charles County cybercrime unit come out to talk about cyber crimes, because that's a pretty big topic here in St. Charles County, and keeping our SWAT team pretty active. We have SWAT, K9, we had crisis intervention, understanding the mental health issues that we deal with in our community and society. A little bit of everything. Obviously K9 is always a very popular one, and we're hoping to get to the range. We try to do a range just so they kind of understand our firearms, and again, even as though they're adults, some of them have never shot guns, so we teach about all the safety aspects that we go through and the training that we go through to be proficient on the range.
Okay. CERT, Community Emergency Response Training, coming up, it looks like April 17th through the 19th. Who can explain what that is and how to be involved?
So let's see what I can do. CERT is it's an invaluable program for the city of O'Fallon. They've helped our city, our police department numerous times, but they're there to help the authorities in case of a disaster, or if we don't have the manpower to do something. I know that for missing persons, we've had them help us search certain areas, and they've located people and help a case come to closure.
Okay.
As opposed to it dragging out longer and longer and longer. Officer Larry Bunt is the one who heads that up, and they do their program twice a year, I believe, April and typically October.
Okay.
And that is one more thing that the CERT does. They work with the Explorer program as far as letting the explorers go through it. They don't have a teen CERT; they just let them go through the regular CERT. But it teaches them invaluable skills as far as preparedness and different methods and tactics that they could use in an emergency situation.
And CERT works kind of through the EMA, emergency management. So if it's basically a natural disaster preparedness group, if one of their tasks, if there's a tornado or earthquake, we have citizens that are trained to help respond.
Yeah, I think it's just
help their neighbor.
Yeah, just assist in the coordination. Once they go through that, they kind of understand the police response and emergency management response and what's going to be expected. And I would think that in a really terrible disaster, they could actually probably lead some non-trained citizens because they're within that understanding of how we coordinate and work through stuff. But they're invaluable from. They might set up a station to provide food and water for first responders, directing traffic. I know they helped us with our open house a couple years ago. They help with cops and bobbers. They barbecued for us, so they're really a good they're really trained, but they're a really good volunteer side that helps the police department.
I know they meet roughly monthly for those who have gone through the 3-day training that's coming up here in April. And to piggyback or to add a little bit more onto that, the training they go through first aid, stop the bleed, super important stuff. In an earthquake, tornado, you could have really bad trauma where you could save people's lives just by stopping the bleed.
Right.
Fire safety, not just safety, but putting it out, and then all the safe tactical steps to do that. But anybody who wants to be able to help out in an emergency, I recommend that they do that. Officer Bunt and the CERT people, they really do a good job teaching that class.
Last thing I have listed here is the fairly new teen driving course. The next one coming up here in a few weeks, April 18th, but fortunately it's waitlisted only right now. It's filled up, kind of like Safety Town. It will fill up pretty much immediately as soon as it opens up. So can you explain more about what teen driving course is, the preparedness course for residents, the teens, and basically do we have another date coming up or just be on the lookout? And when it opens, have your account ready, I assume.
Be on the lookout. We've got some coming up. I'm not sure what the dates are. But we have police officers that teach kids driving skills, parallel parking. If you want to drive a police car.
Really fast, probably.
Somewhat fast.
Okay.
In a safe way,
So
safest way.
EVOC, emergency vehicle operator certified officers that are teaching this, they're teaching these courses, and they're designed for teens prior to getting their driver's license.
But they need to have their permit.
They had a permit but no driver's license to get them ready for the test and make sure they know.
Right. And they need to at least have driven before, have some knowledge on how to operate a vehicle. We're not starting from scratch, right? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think we're kind of the neutral voice between parents. You hear the horror stories of my dad yells at me and I can't drive with my mom. And so in a professional with actual trainers that train the officers also, they're in the seat with them and being more constructive and positive and not yelling at them.
You're not teaching how to drive with lights and sirens. You're teaching how to drive from home to school and do so safely.
Well, we're willing to expand our recruiting program. If the kids want to be on the wait list to be recruited when they're 21, we'll definitely take them. And not saying this would account against them in the interview process later, but no lights and sirens, just practical driving to keep them safe on the road.
Right. Well, I think you guys have both provided a lot of information, especially about Safety Town, what it is, how it became what it is today, what kids and parents should expect this coming summer from it, and also how to sign up and pre-sign up for your account before you sign up on April 1 at 8 a.m. But Is there anything else before we sign off here that we didn't talk about that you want to kind of get out there so people know?
These different organizations throughout, society have kind of, their numbers dwindle, but I think it would be, an error on our part if we didn't recognize the VFW Post and the Ladies Auxiliary here in O'Fallon. They helped us out for many years, providing the cakes at graduation, and the ladies would come out and do all those things. And actually, one of the members actually wrote the poem. She wrote the poem when she was a child in a contest, a national contest, and she won it. Okay. So that's where our poem came from. But I think recognizing
it's on the back of the shirts that each of the kids get. We brought one in here.
So Andy here, if you're listening but not watching, Andy has a bright orange Safety Town T-shirt.
Here's a shirt that each of the kids get. There's the front, and then the back's got the poem on it. And it's Emily Shama that wrote that poem way back in 1985, I assume, unless it was before.
Oh, no, this is I think in the 30s. Yeah, it's really, really old. And she was a really little girl. But we that's one of the things we did. We wanted to put that on the shirt and always remember that she did that for keeping kids safe.
Okay.
So.
Well, again, thank you guys, both of you, for taking time out of your day. I know it's not easy to get away from the school and all the other tasks you guys are assigned to, but I appreciate you guys coming over here to talk about Safety Town, to be on the podcast, and just thank you guys and everybody at the PD for what you guys do every day to keep O'Fallon a great place to live, work, and play. So thank you. And I want to thank everybody that's listened today, who's watched on YouTube, and just want to thank you again for being part of this. Make sure, as Andy said, sign up for the account through the Renaud Center prior to 8 a.m. on April 1st. And you can sign up for Safety Town April 1 at 8 a.m. Get your kids in there, 4.5 to 6.5. All sessions at both Progress South and Discovery Ridge. And, of course, make sure you hit like or subscribe on your favorite podcast viewing app so you can get notified the next time we drop a podcast. And until then, thank you, O'Fallon.